Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today it is a windy afternoon here in Southwest Florida. The hurricane is going through the panhandle and I'm in Southwest Florida, so it's just windy today. There's a lot of it. What I want to do today is just talk with you about one orchid, and that orchid is, I've got it right here, and that is, and this one is, and this one also. These are Cattleya pumila. And this is an orchid species. It is actually one of the first that I grew from seed because a colleague had a seed capsule, and he wanted me to flask it for him, which I did. I had a bloom. I had my first bloom on the first Cattleya pumila from this seed capsule, I guess about maybe 6 months ago, a little more than that, and that was, I think, within about 3 years of deflasking. So this is about 3.5 years from deflasking, and I have another flower on this, and so this is the second flower on, and this is a different plant from the original plant. And then in the meantime, my colleague sent me an image of his flower on one of his Cattleya pumilas. So when I did this flasking, I didn't know about this plant. I thought it was one of the first ones that I had. Okay, I'll try it. And so I generated a lot of seedlings for him. And so I provided seedlings to him in in individual pots and in community pots, flats, a bunch of different things, because he really likes the plant, and he has a lot of them. This plant is small flower. I didn't know what it was at the time. Now I do. Small flower, pleasant enough, compact plant. I like the plant. I'm not sure if I love it, but I do like it. It's a nice plant. I'm not going to be growing any more of these for myself. I think I might just have a few more. Most of the Cattleya pumilas that I generated, I gave away to other people. We actually, within our my Orchid Society, we had a deflasking workshop, and I think I gave away a few hundred Cattleya pumilas in that workshop, and some of the people tell me that their plants from that workshop, that I think was about 2 years ago, some of their plants are getting big too. And the thing is that's interesting is I still have some of the original plants in flasks in the laboratory. If you just leave them in the flask, they just sit. They kind of go dormant a little bit, and but they do eventually, they'll die. But I'm gonna, and I've done this recently a few months ago, and I'll do it now. I'll pull some seedlings out of those and replate onto the replate medium, and I'll get some more plants, but not too many. I've sold some to the local nurseries, some of the flasks to the local nurseries, some of the local nurseries as well. Anyway, back to these plants. These plants, the ones that I have here, are really interesting. I like not this plant as much as this plant right here. The flowers, I'm going to put this down. The flower on this plant, they're not great. I'll get a close-up of the flower on this plant. They're only supposed to have 1 to 2 flowers per spike, and this has one that's open, but it looks like, I'm looking, and it looks like there's another flower on this spike that's really small, that's not going to come out on this plant. I've got 2 other large pseudobulbs that I see flower spikes down in there, so I'll get more flowers on this too. This is a real vigorous plant. I've got 2 new pseudobulbs growing here. I've got 2 new pseudobulbs growing on this side. So the plant is really vigorous. The cool thing about this plant that I noticed a while ago when it was smaller is there seems to be some, I'm not sure if I would call it variegation, but striping in some of the leaves. And I noticed it on this plant But then after I noticed it, it's really easy to see on this plant. But then after I noticed it on this plant, I also saw it on some of the other plants. And one of the people that was in the deflasking workshop that I told you about with my Orchid Society, she commented to me a couple of weeks ago that her plant's getting big and it's variegated. So she got another one of this batch. When you make self, so this was a self of the plant, a lot of the recessive mutations are going to come up. So I don't think it's too unusual to get some albinism and maybe some variegation in there too. It is a little unusual, but this is where this comes from because this was a self of that plant. But the foliage on this plant is really very interesting because of this this striping, the variegation, and it's in most of the leaves. I don't know if it'll grow out of it. I hope not, because I actually like the variegation more than I like the flowers on this plant, at least. And this is a good, vigorous grow. A lot of times, again, when you have variegation or when you have some kind of albinism or something like that, usually, and even a lot of times with inbreds, with the self of a plant, you'll get some other recessive traits that'll come up that'll make this plant not grow as rapidly and not make it as vigorous. But this plant is really vigorous. It's growing really well. What I want to do is, so in addition to variegation, I want to explain to you what some of the flowers look like. So I'm going to show you first a picture of the flower from the plant that this came from. And Cattleya pumila, the flowers are small, but the flowers are also fairly characteristic. They have a certain look to them. So this is the parent plant here that should be in the middle of your screen. And then the next I'm bringing up is a image of the first flower that I had on my first plant, like I said, that was about 6 months ago. And they're similar, but they're not exactly the same. So the petals are a little bit lighter. The whole flower, I think, is a little bit lighter. Nicely formed. It's got a pumila type flower. I'm now going to show you the flower that was on my friend's plant. The guy that supplied the capsule to me, his first bloom on the progeny plant is shown right here. He, for some reason, either he knows how to grow them or he gets better colors on his plants. I don't know. And then finally, I'm going to show you a picture of this plant, a close-up of the flower of this plant that I have in my hand. And so you can see the similarities. They have, there's pretty wide petals. The sepals are a little thin. It's got some coloration, in the lip, a little coloration. A small, dainty flower on a nice small plant. All right, one of the other things that I want to show you. So as far as the variegation on this plant, I want to show you again the community flats that I provided to my colleague. And there must be, I think, around 20 plants in each one of these. And you can see, if you look at it carefully, you can see the same type of thing, a variegation of the striping in the leaves of some of the plants that are in this community flat, or one of these community flats that I provided to my colleague. So you can see this. He likes these things, so I gave him all of these flats. I gave him a lot of individual plants, and I just kept a few. And anyway, so I wanted to share those with you and show you everything. I'm happy. I'm going to hold on to this plant. It's got some good vigor. It's got a lot of nice blooms on it. I'm not sure if I'm not going to use this flower for my breeding. I may use some of the other ones that are coming up. So I've got at least 2 more flower spikes coming up on this plant. And each one of those, I think, is going to have a couple of flowers on it. And I've got a lot of new pseudobulbs growing out of this. So this plant's doing well. I like good, vigorous growers. This other plant, again, it's about the same age, and it's not doing as well. But that's fine, and that's to be expected. And also, just to disclose all the information, I did have a couple other plants that are no longer with me, so I'm getting better at growing orchids, but I'm still pretty good at not having them survive with me, and for some reason I had this time of year, and this is a recent thing. I had black rot. It really is causing havoc on a lot of my orchids because of the heat and the humidity that we're getting, and the water, the moisture, the rain that we're getting this time of the year. So I have some plants that didn't make it, and that happens. Everything doesn't grow great. There are some issues that do come up. Okay, so that's all I have for today. That's my Cattleya pumila story. I grow this just so you know. This one, the roots on this one are growing good. I have this growing right now on leca. I usually, the other ones that I have, the one there and the other ones that I've had, the first blooming was in lava stone. So again, around here, I like to have it in a dry mix. My orchid growing colleague that's really good at growing pumilas, he mounts most of his pumilas. So they like, as most Cattleya type orchids, they like it a little drier, but again, good moisture in the, getting it into the roots. So just wanted to share with you again how this plant that's doing so well. I think it's in all leca and some lava stone on the bottom of this pot. All right, so that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed my video on Cattleya pumila. If you did enjoy and you want to keep on seeing my videos, it would help me out if you could click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, that's all I have for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.